Hey y'all, welcome back to House CM. Today I'm going to show you how to craft modular and functional tabletop terrain bridges, like these. Also, if you're new here, welcome to the channel. Typically at the end of my videos, I use my terrain in a fun little story, so if you're looking for some inspiration, stick around till the end of the video. And on that note, let's hit the table. Alright, so I'm going to build these bridges by scavenging parts from several of my earliest bridge projects. I'm okay with taking these apart because I stopped using them, as the few metal miniatures I own cause them to kind of bow in the middle, and that's not going to work for me now. So this is the final goal here. I actually made these a day earlier off camera just as a proof of concept, and I'm pretty stoked about them. Now I just need to make a couple more and I'll have quite a few options at the table. So first off, I need some popsicle sticks. Now, when I first made this bridge, I used cardboard and hot glue, not expecting to ever take it apart. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to spend some time cleaning that hot glue off the back of these popsicle sticks, since this is a recycled project. I actually found that this is much easier with an Olfa knife. Now, once that hot glue is removed, we can create our boards. Now, I wanted to make a couple old weathered bridges as well as a few newer and functional bridges, and I made the older bridges look more worn by splitting them down the middle with my Mora knife. And you can see me tapping it to split. Make sure you're being extra careful here, as this step can be a little dangerous if you're not used to bopping or splitting wood with a knife. After I made a couple thin boards, I'm going to carve away some of the edges to make them look even more rough. This also can be challenging if you don't have solid finger and hand dexterity, so just make sure to cut carefully with a sharp knife and don't hurt yourself. Now, I found that using the wire cutting part on a pair of needle nose pliers to be the easiest method of clipping and tearing the edges of our boards. And I initially tried using my knife, but I wasn't happy that the cuts looked so straight. So I experimented with this. And yep, that looks great. You can even angle your pliers to get a different kind of clip. Now, this step is optional, but I found the boards look much better after painting when they have some wood grain texture. And I tried to do this with my Olfa knife, but the cuts were too fine. So I ended up using that metal chopstick, and that seemed to work much better for scratching in that wood grain. Now, what I love about crafting something like an old bridge is there's so much room to just freehand steps, and if you mess up, it'll just look more damaged, and I think that will just contribute to that look that we're going for. Alright, once you have enough boards, grab some wooden dowels or barbecue skewers to use as your cross beams. I like the wooden dowels a bit more because they seem sturdier, but I made bridges from both. Last time I used hot glue and didn't like how the excess would seep between the planks, so this time we're using super glue. Turn on a fan or something for ventilation, as this stuff will off-gas something awful. And while I'm gluing these planks down, don't forget to click that subscribe button if you want to see more content like this in the future. Now, I just placed the boards down in a way that looks good to me. I also made sure the cross beams would match up with my first bridge. It looks good. Here's a fun tip. If you're making an old whatever bridge, it's totally okay to start with a plank on each side and work your way towards the middle. However, if you're trying to make a nicer looking bridge, you will want to measure it and work your way across from one side. That way the boards stay even throughout, and you'll see me do this on the next bridge. Speaking of the next bridge, here it is, oh wow! Since these planks are smaller, this one is going to just barely have that 1 inch width, or 5 feet in game terms. Once the planks are all done, I'm going to set some glue and start placing them starting from one end and working my way across as previously mentioned. The coolest thing also about using these wooden dowels is they're already measuring in at about 6 inches or 30 feet, so these bridges themselves can actually just be a 30-foot marker, so to speak. And that's pretty nice so that my players aren't confused as to how far or how long the bridge is. And this last plank is going to hang over the edge about 1/4 of an inch, and you'll see why I did that later on. And now for the big bridge. I imagine this one will be longer and wider to allow for some interesting combat. Once those planks are all textured, you can see me gluing them magically with my palm to 4 barbecue skewers. Now, real quick, you can see a brief demonstration of the modularity of these bridges. I really like the seamless transition between them, and I think these will become a pretty solid addition to my toolbox. Now, I wanted these new bridges to match the color of my proof of concept one, so here I mixed together some burnt umber paint and water. Now, make sure to get the paint a little watery so it can flow into the cracks and crevices and darken any of that brighter wood. Once they're all coated, I set them aside to dry, and later I apply another coat just to pick up any of the spots I might have missed. Since I'm already crafting, I thought I'd do another fun experiment with this red oak wood stain. Now, this stuff will stain your skin real bad, so on come the gloves. I used this on a dice box I made a while back and had some left over, so why not try it here? I also tried to use a paper towel to save one of my brushes, but I ended up scrapping that idea real quick. Now, an important thing to note when working with wood stain is make sure you wipe off all of the excess. If you don't, it will dry very tacky and not be very fun to handle. For this, I used an old rag. Preferably use one that doesn't have a lot of little strings and fluff. Otherwise, that stuff will get stuck to your piece and make it look like your bridge was coughed up by a large cat or something. And lastly, I'm sure this goes without saying, but please have proper ventilation when working with stain. Okay, now that the brown paint is fully dry, I can apply a dry brush and tan. And thanks to all that texture we applied earlier, this is going to make our bridges look damn good. Now, as you can see, the first bridge is slightly darker than this new one, and that's because I haven't applied the black wash yet. So let's do that final step. I'm just using the basic black wash recipe from Jeremy over at Blackmagic Craft. I haven't tried experimenting with upgrading my wash with inks just yet, but I see that coming up real soon. Don't forget to tap off the excess black wash and set it aside to dry. And just wow, these look amazing. The stain honestly looks incredible. Also, if you remember before I mentioned the one board being 1/4 inch off the crossbeams, here's why. That 1/4 inch allows for a seamless transition. This can be a 30 or 60 foot bridge, and it can even become a floating pier. The dry brush and paint bridges also look pretty good, and I think doubling up on the barbecue skewers was definitely the right idea for the large bridge. It's been quite a while since I made those cardboard bridges, and I'm also real glad I was able to take some old scatter terrain that I otherwise would have thrown out because I never used it and turn it into something functional and beautiful at the same time. Now, if you found this video informative, please throw me some inspiration in the form of a like, and if you end up making your own tabletop terrain bridges, let me know in the comments down below. Alright, enough with the formalities, let's jump into that story. On the final day of your 5-day journey, you finally arrive. Nestled in the southeast cliffs of the Sikva Hills is a cave that houses an interplanar portal, the likes of which you must reach if you ever hope to see the return of your true love, your pup, Sebastian. Unfortunately, it appears a band of orcs and goblins have built a stronghold out of this cave. Piked wooden defense structures and bridges have been built all across the cliffside. Handfuls of patrols stand watch with a somewhat relaxed vigilance. A large watchtower stands roughly 45 feet high, housing a sentry that surveys the surrounding landscape. They haven't noticed you yet, but it looks like this small army means business, and there's no way to tell if and how many reinforcements they might have deeper in that cave. Just as this realization dawns on you, you hear it. A large, two-headed creature in chains emerges from the cave beneath the central bridge and lets out a fierce roar. Now it's up to you. How would you like to approach? I honestly don't know what's going to happen next. I have no clue. Not a single clue. Thank you so much for watching me be silly. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.